Yesterday, Anna Kasparian and I were lucky enough to speak with Senator Bernie Sanders about the negotiations going on right now for the much needed aid to the American people while the pandemic continues. And I wanted to talk about one part of it. And so to that end, here is one of the interactions I had with Senator Sanders in that interview yesterday. Senator, one thing that has been sometimes in the deal, sometimes apparently not in the deal. Yesterday, Mitch McConnell said that the corporate liability shield wouldn't necessarily need to be in there, but today it seems like it's back on the table. Is that the sort of thing that will be or should be a deal breaker, either for you or for other Democrats in terms of supporting this final bill?
One of the things. The direct payment is also for me a deal breaker. This is a total outrage. You have had major corporate interest, often in the food processing business, the meat processing business, who have treated their workers in the most irresponsible manner, where hundreds of workers have become ill, some have died. You have seen in Amazon some 20,000 workers who have been infected. We don't know how many have died. If you give them a green light, and if you say, no problem, you don't have to take any responsibility for your treatment of workers and the safety provisions or lack of safety provisions that you have provided. What you're saying to every corporate interest in America, you can do anything you want, and there is impunity. And that is an outrage which must not be allowed to happen.
And so as of right now, Sabrina, those negotiations are still going on. We don't know for sure exactly what's going to happen, but according to draft Republican plans that the Business Insider got, they're looking for potentially to stop corporations and universities and stuff too. They add that on, although I don't think they really care about that part. They care about the corporations. They're gonna be protected from lawsuits retroactively. So like even after this passes, lawsuits that had been already launched this month will be invalidated. And for potentially up to 5 years, corporations that have slacked off on safety standards, force their employees to come back at, even though it's not safe with the threat of firing, they can be protected from lawsuits for half a decade, apparently.
I don't understand how they managed to like slip this in, and how by default everybody just doesn't see it as evil. That's so evil. So many people have died at this point, and it is because of negligent employers. And so the fact that like this is what the Democrats have to negotiate with is disturbing. And I'm worried because like even now Bernie Sanders is advocating for that 1,200 check, right? When at the top of the pandemic he was talking about like $2,000. So even he has dropped, he's lowered his bar. And the thing is, he is one of the most left voices that we have out there. And when it comes to like more of the typical Democratic representative, it just seems like since they have moved a little bit more right, it seems like that negotiation starts closer to the right, and so that's why we're seeing such awful offers. Like we're already starting from such a compromised position, instead of if we had a little bit more left voices, we could start from somewhere a little bit more reasonable.
That's a great point. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Yeah, that even Bernie Sanders is asking for less. And let's bear in mind, at one point early on in the pandemic, there were some people talking about recurring payments of $1,000 to $2,000 every month. We are like miles away from that. And isn't it amazing that we're miles away from that after all of our worst fears about how bad the pandemic would be were proven true? Like it's as bad as we worried that it would be. We're racing towards 1/3 of a million Americans dead, and the Democrats won the GD election. But despite all of that, we're now talking about getting less than we were back then. It's weird how American politics works. That doesn't seem like how it should work.
Yeah, it seems like vote blue no matter who wasn't the solution that it was portrayed that it was going to be.
Yeah, I still think it's better than the alternative, but it doesn't.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying vote for Republicans at all. That is not what I'm saying. But I think it does matter who when choosing the blue.
Yeah. Breaking news: Sabrina supports Mitch McConnell. Anyway, now thankfully, in addition to Bernie Sanders, though, there are some who are at least pushing for But the stimulus checks, which again, I hate the term stimulus checks. We talked about that with Bernie as well. That's not what they are. It's not about stimulating the economy. It's about saving lives and saving people's livelihoods, but also stopping this liability from being a part of this. Representative Katie Porter, who we talk about often on the show, she had a tweet chain about this corporate liability being such a big part of this, saying these lawsuits represent the worst of the worst examples of disregard for human life. Cases filed on behalf of nursing home patients and grocery store workers who died because the company in charge of keeping them safe prioritized cutting costs over protecting them. The same McConnell who said that President Trump is 100% within his rights to pursue baseless lawsuits alleging election fraud is now refusing to pass urgently needed relief unless it strips those same rights from the most vulnerable among us. This must be exposed. And I love that Katie Porter is talking about that. I think she's going places. That's a bold prediction that no one else has. But anyway, yeah, the idea that this has to be a part of this, that we can't get money to people before they're thrown out of their apartments to save them without this being a part of it, I think is madness, especially when, just briefly, as we talked about on the show yesterday, we are right now getting lawsuits having to do with the immediate effects of the pandemic. Family members of those who have died because of corporate negligence and things like that. Maybe people who have, they're trying to get money for their hospital stay that already happened. But the thing is, we don't yet know about the long-term effects. There are people who are going to need medical care for the rest of their lives, and that could generate lawsuits as well. But we don't even know yet. We haven't had the time yet to generate those sorts of studies for class action lawsuits to spring up. And that seems to me to be the reason that they're looking to ram this in as fast as possible to stop those things from ever getting off the ground, as they have in some other cases of long-term lingering damage yielding lawsuits.
And that's the thing, they know they were in the wrong. They know that they've made grave mistakes. They're just looking to minimize the consequences for them now at this point.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Now, Bernie said that it should be, a bridge too far. We'll see in the end how many Democratic senators agree with that. I have a feeling no Republicans will, but we'll see. And earlier this week, Mitch McConnell had said that the liability shield didn't necessarily have to be in there. He seems to have moved on from that brief position that he held. So I guess we'll have to see. The terms of the deal seem to change every single day.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.